even though some of the songs may be, a little quirky, I do see them and they're dancing, and I think they really do enjoy it. Where I don't think you might not get that if you were in a brick and mortar school. I don't know if you would get students getting up dancing like they are in a virtual. I think sometimes when they're virtual, even though they're behind the screen, they come out a little bit more.
Well, they feel a little more comfortable. They're in their own element.
Welcome to the Please Raise Your Virtual Hand podcast. We are so delighted to dive into the exciting, challenging, and sometimes messy world of virtual learning, where nothing is impossible and redefining student success is possible. Low Country Education Consortium aims to open up new possibilities for parents, students, and our business and industry partners as we fundamentally transform learning for students. We will hold your virtual hand throughout this series, where we will discuss the world of virtual learning and how we are preparing our students for college, careers, and jobs that haven't been created yet. Virtual learning may be new to you, but it's here to stay. So, let's get started. Hello, and thank you for joining us today on Please Raise Your Virtual Hand. I'm your host, Amy McKenzie. Last episode, we spoke to the kindergarten through third grade teachers of Low Country Virtual and learned so much about virtual learning in early elementary school. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that episode, you're going to want to go back and listen now. It will open your eyes to all the amazing things that LCV has to offer for our little learners. Today, we're joined by another group of Low Country virtual educators that teach LCV 4th and 5th graders. Welcome, Laura Miller.
Hi.
Emily Evans.
Hello, so happy to be here.
Amy Treniff.
Hello, good to be here.
And our very own co-host, Matt Novielli.
Hey, everybody.
So let's start off with learning a little bit about a typical 4th or 5th grade student. Could you tell our audience about the changes you observe as students are progressing from that early elementary school to the stage of upper elementary school, where their families are preparing them to take the next step into middle school?
I feel students need to have more responsibility as they get into upper elementary. I feel like at the early elementary, they are really handheld. Parents are right there next to them, kind of telling them what to do, follow along. However, as they get to upper elementary, we kind of have them be a little more independent and make them kind of a little bit more responsible for their own learning. And their learning coach is then there to assist more or less rather than to really intervene within them.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about students and going into the 4th grade from 3rd grade, it's when they also start deciding, do I really need to do this work? I think it's really interesting how they start the parents get a little confused, because if they give them too much independence, they might kind of try and see what they can get away with. So we see that too. It's where they're starting to kind of build their own idea of what they want to do and what they need to do to succeed in their learning.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. It's kind of like we have that scaffolding of responsibility. It's that rock and a hard place where the parents and ourselves are trying to learn what the right level of responsibility is for the students. And we're kind of, like Amy is saying, what's the level of independence? So that's something we go through at the beginning of the year. And hopefully by midway, definitely by the end of the year, we figured that out and sorted that out. And they're discovering who they are as well.
And it's neat for our team because we've had the opportunity to work 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. So we've been able to see the progression of the 3rd graders needing more independence and then slowly working to that independent stage a little bit more. But it's also really neat to see how, while there are differences in independence, a lot of the terminology stays the same and grows and prepares the students for those upper grades.
So I'm assuming that you encounter a lot of different learning styles as these elementary students are learning to have that responsibility and we're scaffolding to get them to be more independent. What kind of learning styles do you encounter from your successful students in LCV?
I would say we encounter a lot of different learning styles. I mean, there are the kids who, can just work on their own independently, come in that way, are reading the material, digesting the material, don't need any help from their learning coach or their teacher. They're just on it, right? And so they can really read the material and learn it. And then there are those who have to work with online manipulatives. They have to draw it, ask questions, really verbally talk it over with the teachers. And we see the same really that we see, when we were in the brick and mortar schools too, just all the different learning styles. And we have to accommodate those online too. And we do.
I find with, especially with math, math is a kind of a trickier area online because there's so many manipulatives in the school, and so now these students have to find the manipulatives at home to use. Some kids really need that hands-on, where other kids are more mental math kids, and so I have some students who don't want to show me their work at all, but yet they get the right answers, and so I'm like, okay, but how did you even solve that? And I want to see what you solved, and there's nowhere, they're just telling me the answer. And then there's other students who really need all of those models. They need to draw them all out. So I think that letting students be able to use both of those skills is really, really important, because just like the brick and mortar, they would be able to do that there, and finding some different ways to use manipulatives within math.
And talking about different styles of learning, I think our program offers a lot of flexibility to different learners. We have those live meetings where we give like the visual and the audio, but then as they dig into their courses, they'll see opportunities where they can interact more and have that kinesthetic opportunity for their learning.
I think that's huge because just like everybody has been saying, students are also becoming aware of the learning style that works best for them at this age. So it's important for us to provide those opportunities and reflect on each of our lessons to see what is working best for students. So it's a kind of unique age where they become independent in the sense of understanding what works best for them. And then we are providing the opportunity for them to use that.
So we're providing these opportunities for these students academically. I'd like to hear a little bit more about the fun side of fourth and fifth grade. Could you describe for us your approach to building those relationships in a virtual setting and fostering the sense of community within your virtual classroom?
And fourth and fifth grade is a good time.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, the fourth and fifth graders, I feel like they get it in around, like a lot of them get your silly jokes, and they kind of are starting to get to where they have their personalities. They all have their different personalities, where and so they're fun, but yet you're not like too corny of a teacher yet because you're still in the elementary school. I know for myself, I greet every single student when they come in. When I take attendance, every student, I say good morning and their name. So, and then they have to reply back to me with good morning, Mrs. Miller. And I just think that just shows, just lets them know that know that they're in my class. I know that they're there. They know that I am, understanding that they are here and that they are a part of my class, and just kind of building. I like to find out about the students, what they like, if they have an extracurricular activity. When they come in the next day, I'll say, how did you do at your dance class or your softball game or your baseball game or whatever that is? And I think that is so important because it connects us, and then they know that I care about them, just not in the learning environment.
Laura, I love that you said that because when I think about an in classroom setting, you stand at your door and you welcome the students and you give them a hug and you say good morning. And in the virtual setting, they all come in at that same time, but you address them by name to let them know, hey, we appreciate you. We're glad you're here. And I think that's really great that you do that. Piggybacking off of having those connections and those conversations. Every time students come into my classroom, I leave about 5 minutes for students to chat with each other, share, make connections. And that also allows anybody who's having trouble with technology to be able to log in. But it really allows students to kind of realize that they have similarities and that they can still make connections in a virtual classroom.
Yeah, and I would say the same that Laura and Emily said, just addressing them by name and getting them, getting to know them. And if they say, a YouTuber's name, I say, who is that? And I'll go look it up and I'll mention it the next class, just having those connection points with them and trying to stay relevant too. And then we do things like lunch bunch where they can just come in, we eat our lunch, we play a game together, and it just kind of builds community that way. All of our SEL lessons and homeroom, we really get into some deep topics like empathy and compassion is what we're doing this month. And it's just really neat to see these, little babies growing into adults and forming their opinions about the world and helping them do that is a real joy and a gift.
Amy, I think it's neat that you said about a student teaching you about someone new and then going with it the next day. It makes me think of our guest speaker that's coming this week. All of my fourth and fifth graders talk about anime,
Hmm.
and LCV is welcoming an anime voice character to come and share with us. And I think that's absolutely amazing because I'll get to learn a little bit more about what interests my students.
I agree with you, Emily. There are so many students that show me all these different characters of what they make. And I'm always like, who, well, what character is that? Where's this from? And then they like go into it and they like are so excited. And I learn, a lot more too, even though it might not be what I am doing at my house, learning about anime characters, but just to like see how exciting they are to talk about things is really, really exciting to just hear them. That's, just to hear the students talk. I really feel like giving them a voice is huge because they are virtual, so they don't get to talk all day to students. And I think there are some students that would rather talk to us, and then there's some students that would rather, would talk to their peers. And there are students that will come on during my office hours or just during time and say, "Can I just come on just to talk to you?" And
Yeah.
to me, that's just so important.
And I think the biggest thing is providing that opportunity for them to do so and giving them the environment to thrive in based on what they work with. And we have the flexibility with our learning pathways that we're able to sit and to say, if this is your interest, like any of the teachers that just mentioned now, we can build out a lesson. We can build out a interest builder in our lessons. We have the freedom to do that, to draw in the interest from the groups of students that we have. But what it really comes down to is taking the chance to get to know the kids for who they are and acknowledging them on special days for them, special nights that they have an event in their lives, or talking to them through a day that was tough for them. Those occur in the classroom, virtually everywhere. And the biggest thing I think that Amy was mentioning was our cell topics in the morning. It gives them a voice to represent how they feel, to understand those emotions that they go through as they get older, and then to deal with them. And I think, we do as a grade level a number of great things. We've had some of our teachers, I know, Emily, Laura, you guys have went out to see baseball games. We send out personal cards to them. So we reach them on a tangible level and the virtual level. And I think that's the biggest takeaway for them, is that they realize that we are here for them and we care about them, we love them, and we want to be there for them.
That is just, it's so important, and all of you recognize that it's one of the most important and one of the most rewarding aspects of being a teacher is creating these relationships with the students in our classroom, and these relationships, they're lasting relationships when you're genuinely there for it and genuinely making that connection with your students. You all spoke about clubs and special events, guest speakers, extracurriculars. I just think that's one of the things that makes LCV so unique. And I'm just so fortunate to be part of it. And hearing you guys talk about it, I'm getting goosebumps with how well your team functions together. Could you elaborate a little bit more on how the four of you collaborate with each other to really be a team and to support your students as far as your workflow goes?
We are constantly in contact with each other. Sometimes I think, and I know for myself, sometimes they probably just put me on mute because I'm always calling them all the time or texting them. So I just think that us as a group, we are just, if there's anything, we are right, we have a text message thread that goes through that this morning we had a student who wasn't feeling well, and instantly Matt came on and said, "Hey, this student isn't feeling well. I just want to let you guys know what's going on," because his mom had emailed. We are just constantly in contact with each other. If we need to meet, it's like, "Hey, let's jump on a Google Meet and figure this out." I just feel like we really work as one. And if there is a tough decision or something that has happened, we want to make sure that we are all on the same page before we respond to any parent or to any kid, because we always want to be consistent within our grade level. And I think that is really, really important to make sure that we are all one, even though we all have our different personalities, but we really do some of the same procedures within our class. So that way it is consistent for all these students.
Hey, I can tell you right off the bat that the things that we just talked about for the students that we do for them, that every single one of these teachers have done for me. They've let me know that they cared. They reached out on tough days, on good days, on happy days. Doesn't matter. But I know that no matter what, it's like having a group of best friends that can sit there and talk and experience these things with you, but also understand the job that you're working on. So it's a unique relationship. And the best part of it is that we are all together on the same page. And I think that's what makes a difference for the kids and for us.
You're 100% right, Matt. I will tell you that no matter what happens, there has been different situations in here where somebody may have had a situation and they weren't planning on being out, or they weren't planning on something happening. And right there, somebody's like, "Hey, I'll take your homeroom. I'll take this class." It doesn't matter what it is. I feel like we all have each other's backs no matter what, and we will do what is right for all the students, and to make sure that each other is feeling comfortable and confident in our team, knowing that any moment, if anything were to happen, I can call on these three teachers and they will 100% jump in. It's just so, like, such a joy to work with all three of them.
Yeah, I agree, obviously, with what you guys are saying.
You better.
And then it's really neat too that whenever I am out and I have to, contact the admin and I say, "Hey, this is going on," and I say, "My team's got it." It's really warms my heart because the admin always says, I am 100% sure your team has it. It's not, they know we work together well. They support us. They know we have it. They're there for us if we need them, but rarely do we when in those kinds of situations, because we're just there and ready to jump in. That is just, I don't know, it takes a lot of weight off your shoulders when things happen that are out of your control.
When Matt mentioned talking about community we build with the students, that's something that right off the bat, I agree with Matt that I really think we built. And that idea of trust as well. We talk about how important it is to be open with our students so they trust us, but I know that I can lean on my teachers and I can trust them to play their role, and we really have to function together. So I know if a student needs to be reached out to, it they've probably already been reached out to by one of my other teachers, and we can connect on that level. And I think just building the community between us and knowing that we can trust one another has really helped our team to function well.
For sure. And that, you know what the biggest takeaway is? That the kids can see that too. So when they walk into our dynamic as a group of teachers, they see the way that we can talk and joke around with each other, but be serious when we need to be and get our work done. And we know what's going on with each other's classrooms. They take that away and they know, okay, like they mean business and we're here and they enjoy it.
That's true. Even today, I was on with a kid and a student, and they were kind of trying to tell me that a little fib about science. And I was able to say, "Oh, okay, well, I'm going to text Mr. Novielli right now." And he's like, "Oh, whoa, 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 whoa." So he the kids know we talk to each other. We're like, just because we're not in the same, say, building that we are on it, and we will text and get right back to them about what that other teacher has to say about what they're saying. So that kind of support is really amazing too, to know that, they know we're all in it together. And we will work together to get, the best answer for them.
It kind of reminds me of, they think when mom says no, go ask dad, and maybe he'll say yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
right.
not happening here. Like, we all know. And so you're not going to go ask someone else because they've tried that before. Believe us, they've tried. So in this class, and then I'm like, no, that's not true. Don't go there. Like,
Right.
nope, that's not true at all.
I'm already shaking my head. I'm like, nope.
Right.
No, I know that person
Yeah,
does not allow you to do that at all.
right. Yeah, that, and as far as workflow, I mean, we have, the technology set up where we're sharing Google Docs. We have our hand in a Google Doc where we're tracking all the kids who are struggling, tracking all the kids we've contacted, making sure we've contacted them in the last week or two. We also can see, all of us can see each other's grades and see the last communication we've had. So having those things in place, those kind of data trackers, are really helpful too when we aren't able to, jump on a call right away.
Just piggybacking off that, Amy, I will 100% agree with you. And I will tell you, Emily is amazing when it comes to getting a form out. We'll sit there and it'll be like, okay, you need to track this. And within like 15 minutes, I get a form from Emily, like, hey guys, I just made this form, and I'm like, oh my God, like, it's just awesome to work with all of these amazing teachers.
Some would say almost like cyber superheroes.
Cyber superheroes. I'm sure your parents on your team really appreciate you guys presenting a united front and always being on the same page. How often would you say that you're in communication with parents?
I would say 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. No, but we call. I mean, I will tell you, I am a big phone call of parents.
Yes,
So
yes,
I
she is.
I call all the time. I'm more of a caller than an emailer, just because I just think sometimes email, you don't want to have the wrong message go across. So I'm constantly calling parents, and I even call parents. I mean, 5, 6 o'clock at night, I'm always on the phone with parents. So I feel like our parents really know what's going on. And if they don't, I don't know how they don't, because I feel like we are constantly letting them know. And it's not just, the things that maybe the students aren't doing their work, or they're not, doing something. We also are constantly calling parents to say, hey, they did a really good job in this area, or we're really proud of them in this. I really do think the parents are super supportive of us too. If I'm on with another class and I maybe a couple minutes late because a student caught me, then I'll have parents that are texting me like, are you okay? Is everything all right? So I do think that they really take a lot of pride into what they're doing as a learning coach, but also they really respect us and really do care about all of us.
Yeah, I really feel like they care about us and about, what's going on in our lives. And, when they do pop in, they'll, some of it's academic, and some of it, I had a mom pop her head in the other day and just said, I just want to tell you, I say your chickens are my chickens. They're like my chickens. I love learning about them. I love seeing them. So it's just kind of fun to see how much they, care about our world too. And I don't feel like you get that as much in-person school, just because they're out living their lives. But when they're being the learning coach, they're hearing everything that's going on. They just, it's a different kind of bond.
I definitely agree, Amy. I see gaps being bridged between teachers and parents when students are in a virtual program. I see that parents are much more involved in the academics and they know what their children are learning. I think often after a child gets in the car from a day at school, the main question is, well, what did you learn today? And after 8 hours, well, I don't remember. But here in a virtual program, students have the opportunity to be with their parents, and the parents or the learning coaches or guardians are there during the day and can fully be a part of their child's academics and their learning throughout the day, but then also be there for those personal conversations so that they know about our chickens or our dogs or our daughter's baseball team. And I think that really helps to bridge some of those gaps that might be missing in other settings.
It's almost like you have an insight of what's going on in the personal life as well as academics. So you kind of get to know them in different aspects than you normally would of working in a school and just giving them a phone call or having a parent teacher conference. You get to see them every day. They get to be with you every day and hear your voice every day. So even if you were calling them once a week, it feels like talking to a friend because they hear you every single day talking to their child and feel comfortable with you. And they understand how you work as a teacher and you understand how their child works as a student. So it builds a unique relationship between you guys.
Clearly, the four of you are doing a lot in your classrooms and behind the scenes work of keeping your students engaged and keeping your families involved in the learning process. If I were a brand new virtual teacher, what advice would you give me as far as engaging students so that they're not feeling trapped on the computer?
Just doing brain breaks and dances. And I do lots of parodies, silly songs that teach history, just ways to engage them in learning. We did not tic tac toe, rock, paper, scissors the other day where they were using their whole bodies as a rock, a paper, a scissor, to answer questions in a game. Just trying to get them to move around and experience learning in a fun way.
I also really encourage my students that when they are not on with me live, that they really do take that break. I constantly am telling my students, go outside, go see what the weather's like today. Go walk out your front door, just like, just for 5 minutes, go see, what it's like. Because I feel like when students, even though they're not live with us, they still have independent work that they have to do. And I feel like sometimes they get trapped into maybe doing their independent work, or they may think their independent time is going on gaming or doing some other kind of virtual that's non-educational. And I really try to talk to them about, really leave your screen. When they come into my class, I'll give like a 5-minute break and say, okay, go get your things, go to the bathroom, go run around your house. If your mom says, just say, I'll be right back. Mrs. Miller told me to go run around my house real quick. I know even for myself, sitting the whole time, I need to get up and move around. And, like Amy said, doing some videos. I did a parody the other day in math. Even though some of the songs might be, a little quirky, I do see them and they're dancing, and I think they really do enjoy it. Where I don't think you might not get that if you were in a brick and mortar school. I don't know if you would get students getting up dancing like they are in a virtual. I think sometimes when they're virtual, even though they're behind the screen, they come out a little bit more.
Well, they feel a little more comfortable. They're in their own element, which is nice. And I think, like Amy was saying, the fun things that she does in class and doing the parodies and songs. And I know if I have a kid coming in from ELA, they're telling me the amount of energy that Miss Evans has and the positivity she has. It is what you're putting into your lessons is what's going to come out, no matter what type of school you're in. And that is something that we preach for our grade level in particular. Like, we come in every day with a good amount of energy. We have positive vibes. We are excited to be there ourselves. So it in turn makes the students excited to be there too. And they are coming. We work, each of us, as you heard, works in different subject areas. So we all bring our own personalities with us as well. So the students are engaged because they're traveling from one classroom to another. They get to meet with that teacher. They have those relationships with one teacher are different from another teacher, and they get to build on those throughout the whole year. So we make sure that our lessons are engaging, that are interactive for each kid. They go to their interest. We have that opportunity to create those lessons, and then we have our work together as a team, that they know that they can trust us, they enjoy being with us, and they look forward to going on to the next class instead of sitting in one for the whole day.
Absolutely. And talking about my energy level.
It is notorious at LCV. All
Right?
parents and students, they are like, this is her. We have her this year. We have her this year.
All grade levels know, because we know.
And I
What you
think
guys talking about during your PLCs now? But I tend to bring a lot of energy into the classroom. And I think part of that is because we have flexibility where we are not online all day. And I think sometimes that's a misconception that families hear, online learning, I don't want my child in front of the screen all day. Well, that's not really how Low Country Virtual works. And I think that provides breathing room for me as the teacher so that when I can get on an online meet with a student, I have that energy. And hopefully that provides that for that student too, where they do have live lessons. However, they get that time where they can work asynchronously or on their own to have more of a flexible schedule so they are not drained being online from 8 to 2:30 or 3:30.
I think it's actually funny too. The other day, I don't know if it was Amy or Emily, but the kids actually know our personalities. Like one of the students, I forget, they were like, Miss Evans, does she have a lot of coffee? She's always so energetic. And then somebody else said, Mrs. Miller is always cracking jokes, or Mr. Noviel. They know all the personalities. And so I think like they also enjoy that we do bring such different personalities to each class. So when they go to class, it's different. They know as much as we have so much structure that's the same, they also know we are individuals and we're so different. And so it's not the same thing every time they log in.
Thank you so much, Amy, Emily, Matt, and Laura, for being here on Please Raise Your Virtual Hand.
Thank you. I really enjoyed talking.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure to be here.
This has been amazing. Thank you guys so much.
To our listeners, I know that you've learned so much over the last few episodes about Low Country Virtual. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to follow Low Country Virtual's Twitter account at LC Virtual School to stay up to date with all of the wonderful things that our teachers and students are doing every day. Be sure to tune in for our next episode, and we'll continue moving up the grade levels with our 6th grade team. This podcast is written, hosted, edited, and produced by a team of educators from the Low Country Education Consortium. Amy,
Caitlin,
Matt,
and Meg
are proud to bring you
Please Raise Your Virtual Hand.